Pardon me?
That was when it was Ziegler, right?
Right. Then it went on to Marconi and BAE systems. But we were the owners went and called for a meeting in the conference room one afternoon, and I went in there. Me and a coworker, we were the first ones there. We were waiting for the others to show up. And at the end of the table, there's a projection screen just went up on its own. And he and I looked at it, and we looked at each other, shaking our heads. And
what happened to the screen?
It just shot up by itself.
Well, maybe it just had a short or something.
Well, at the end of the meeting, I talked to my supervisor. We were talking about it. And he says, yeah, this was Bill Lear's favorite room. Had a tucked-in coffee machine, used to kick back in there, I guess.
Oh, that was John Lear's father's favorite room, you're saying?
Right.
Oh, okay. Well, that's interesting. A little tidbit for you there, yeah. John Lear.
Interesting.
Okay, thanks, Richard. Appreciate you being on the program. Next up, Wild Card Line. You're on Coast to Coast. Hi there.
Hello.
Yes, take it away.
Yeah, this is Jeff. I'm a truck driver going across to Montana here.
All right.
I used to work at the Livermore Labs when I was in high school, a kid. I was wondering how involved were they in these programs?
They were at the top. Dr. Teller headed Lawrence Livermore, and Dr. Teller was head of the UFO program.
Okay, I when I was working there, I started out as high school. It was part-time. They sent me down to the salvage yards, and we'd separate material down there. And there were several times that they would bring really strange stuff in there, and there would be like a group of men bring things into the salvage yard, and we weren't allowed to go over there until they were done taking what they needed out, and then we'd go over there and dismantle it and put like the stainless steel in the wiring in different hoppers so they could be recycled.
Yeah.
And I was just, I know that there was a large underground complex there between there and Sandia across the street. But I developed thyroid disorder, and I was curious if there would be anything that could tie that to the radiation lab.
Now, that's really interesting that there was a place across the street called Sandia. Tell me about that place.
Or was straight across the street from Lawrence Livermore Labs is what they called it. I was in there in 70, 71.
And what was in Sandia?
I have no clue. See, I was only cleared to work at the Livermore Radiation Lab.
Okay, thanks, George. The reason that's so interesting is one of the ways they keep things secret is they named different projects the same name. For instance, Sandia was the original name of the operation there at Kirtland Air Force Base.
Okay.
And then Sandia is also the name of the secret runway and facility up at the Paiute Mesa within the test site. And then now there's another Sandia. So it's pretty interesting. They sure like that name.
So you'd be totally confused, whatever they were doing.
Right. If the Sandia comes up accidentally, somebody would think, oh, yeah, that's just that place over at Albuquerque.
Right, and off they go. Let's go to our first-time caller line. Welcome to the program. Hi.
Hello, George.
Yeah, go ahead, sir.
Okay, John, you're blowing me out the door. Listen, I talked to an engineer that worked on the capsule that fired up on the pad and burned up the astronauts.
Yeah.
And he said that the wiring on that thing was atrocious.
Yeah,
and he almost lost his job over fighting them, that it wasn't fit to take off.
Right.
And I don't know if, how many people knew that, but I think that's a plug against NASA for sure.
Yeah, well, the story is that while NASA didn't specifically cause that accident, they certainly were complicit in letting it happen. Gus Grissom was very outspoken. As a matter of fact, only a few days before the fire, he had made the comment, this thing ain't going to the moon in 2 years, this thing ain't going to the moon in 10 years.
Yeah.
Because he was so disgusted with the workmanship.
So anyway, that's one thing. But another thing I wanted to say, I saw a spaceship go in front of the moon one night, and it had to be about 2,000 feet long. It was the hugest thing I ever saw in my life. and it was in orbit around the Earth. I know it was.
Yeah.
But the thing that blew me out the door was that the thing was so vivid. It was the vividness of it seemed like you could just reach out and touch it. Yet I know it was in orbit.
Was it one of those huge triangular-shaped objects?
No, it was a cigar shape, but it was pointed on each end.
I sometimes get some incredible calls, John, from people who are looking at a full moon and they see something go right past it.
Yeah, this thing had a very thick body and pointed on both ends. So I know it wasn't space junk.
Okay, thanks for the call. John, what do we hear about these large triangular-shaped objects?
Those are probably ours, and they show up every once in a while.
A lot of them are seen near military bases, so yeah. I'm beginning to think maybe there's a big hangar out there or something like that.
Yeah, well, no, they're not hangar. Everything's underground now.
Everything.
And these neat landing strips they have, what they do is the pilots say that, when they're landing, they're vectored by radar, and when they get to about 500 feet, that the runway unzips like a zipper on a purse, and in front of them is revealed the runway. They land on the runway, and an elevator takes them down, and then the terrain, whatever it is, desert or orchards or cotton fields or whatever, zips back up, and it just looks like a regular terrain. I remember a few years ago, two friends of mine, Jim Goodall and John Andrews, had a report of a 10,000-foot strip 35 miles northeast of Alamogordo, and they spent 2 weeks. They each got their vacation simultaneously and drove around the exact spot for 2 weeks trying to find that strip, and couldn't find it.
You still flying these days?
No. Oh, wait, who's it?
You.
No.
Not at all? Not even for fun?
No, I retired 5 or 6 years ago. I had my pilot's license laminated, put on the wall.
Okay, all right. I thought you were still at least playing around, part-time for fun or something.
No.
Okay. Let's go to our wild card line. You're on Coast to Coast. Hi there.
Hi there.
Yes, sir.
Hi, this is Mike from New York. How are you?
Good, Mike. Go ahead.
Good morning. I'm just a little bit astonished about, if you don't mind, maybe asking one or two questions.
I'll give you one before the break. Go ahead.
Okay. It's just about asking, how have all the astrophysicists made mistakes about the planets, and how come all the astronomers that we have at SETI have not picked up a single transmission from all these inhabited planets? This is beyond the pale. It doesn't make sense, and this is not a personal assault. I'm asking you an honest question, how they've not picked up at least the serious people from SETI, the astronomers, the astrophysicists, got it all wrong, and not one has picked up a transmission. And I'll listen to your answer on the radio. Thank you, John.
Okay, take it away, John.
I don't know. It's as simple as that.
It just is. It just is. Okay, well, we're going to continue to take phone calls. We've only got a half an hour left with our guest, John Lear, tonight. So if you want to just jump on board, if you can get in, because I will forewarn you, the lines have been busy all hour. If you need to email me, that's simple, George at Coast2, coasttocoastam.com. We'll be back in a moment. Final phone calls with our special guest tonight, John Lear, right here on Coast to Coast AM. We're going to take your calls, but we're going to wrap up this hour again with the Lear disclosure. It is a classic, and I want you to hear it one more time. I also would like you to pick up the After Dark newsletter, where we'll send you a complimentary double copy of the After Dark CD, bumper music, ghost stories, phone calls to the show, a collector's item of $14.95 retail value. It is complimentary when you order the After Dark newsletter. Call 1-888-727-5505 or go online at coasttocoastam.com. And welcome back to Coast. George Noory, John Lear, and your phone calls. John, I'm going to play your disclosure project once again at the end of the program.
Okay, and let me tell you a quick story.
Yeah.
It relates to you not being able to believe that there's people on other planets.
Okay, sure.
Bob's sitting with Bob Lazar, and I'm showing him the pictures of the buildings on the moon, and he's trying to make it out. And he says, I'm going to kill myself if this turns out to be true. So I had him sign a statement, and I have it in front of me. It says, I, Bob Lazar, promise to kill myself if any of John's moon stuff is true. Signed, Bob Lazar, August 23rd, 1996.